Okay, hello everyone. This is week 2 of Jamboard. I'm now on my iPads and I'm going to access the Jamboard that was made last week and show you how it looks different on an iPad. So the first thing I'm going to do is swipe down and I'm going to search for Jamboard. It was already there. In fact, let's just go out again. So just come out of that. I'm swiping down from the centre of the screen down to the search bar. If I just type in Jam, I can open up Jamboards. Now it's recognising here that I am usually logged in on my account, but I want to log in as the example account. So I'm going to press the arrow and press add another account. And it will then let me log in on a different account. So the children would log in with their Node Mail details and their Node Mail passwords. Hopefully I've typed that incorrectly. Okay, and then continue. Now, what you can see here, it says example on most of these. If you look at the dates as well, you can see, so there we go. There's the very first one, 11th of January 2021. You can see how often we used it throughout lockdown. It then kind of drifted a little bit and hasn't been used as regularly. And also the example account hasn't been used as regularly too. However, there's still, a couple of times we've used it and we check on things. But you see that most of it says example, and then it says what the file is. That's because these have been posted through Google Classroom. And the name on the example Node Mail account is first name example, surname example. So, say for example that, I don't know, John Smith is in your class and you sent it through Google Classroom, rather than saying example, and then what the Jamboard is, it would say John Smith, example Jamboard. John Smith, test-based 3D shapes. Where it hasn't done that is this one, multiplication questions, because this one has been created by the example account, either on Jamboard, on computer, or on iPad, rather than being sent out on Google Classroom. So to create a new one, if you see the plus button in the bottom right, that will open up a blank Jamboard, very much like the one I showed you last week on computer. A couple of differences you can see on here is that there aren't as many, right, it's the laser pointer, so this one will help to kind of underline, highlight things that appear afterwards. So you can see here that there aren't as many options. There's a plus button, which is different, which will still allow you to add sticky notes, which is going to be key. You can take pictures from the iPad, which obviously you couldn't do on the desktop computer. Stickers is a new one that's come in with just a couple of options. There's not many, but again, they'll be adding things all the time. But that might be a good one that you can add in something, and then help if I was on the right size of the select tool. I can then make that bigger. Okay, and I can move it about. Again, sticky notes does the exact same thing. You've got your colours there, same. But then one other thing that, again, the children will probably quite like is the assistive drawing tools. So you've got text writing. So if I write hello, it will change into text, so text recognition. That was pretty good. Shape recognition. I can draw a triangle. I can draw a rectangle or a square and circles. But what's really impressive, let's go on to a new page for this one, is this last one, which is assistive drawing tools for auto draw. So if I draw, let's not just do a dot, let's do a smiley face, it'll pick up and change. If I draw a house, very, very basic house, but there you go, and we can change it. Let's try, what else can we try? Let's try an apple. There we go. Okay, so again, the children probably quite like that. Whether it's actually useful or not, whether you could, do anything with it, I'm not sure. That'd be down to you. But yeah, different ones on there from a basic image. Let's just try an unhappy face. No, it doesn't have fun happy faces. It must be mental health and well-being. Happy faces only. But yeah, so that's something that, you know, maybe you'd want to show them, maybe not. I'm sure they'll discover it anyway, so why hide it? But let's jump onto the example one. So if you remember last week, there you go, we've got our polar bear. We've got our one for definitions. And we had some maths questions. Now you can see at the bottom right, we've got a pencil, because at the moment I'm just viewing this, I'm not actually editing it. If I go onto the edit, you can now see that I have got the options such as the pen and the rubber, the select pointer and the laser pointer, which is what I'm on now, as well as to add sticky notes, for example, too. Now, obviously I'm recording this, what I did quite a lot of on Jamboard during lockdown, let's just switch to a pen, is I did tutorials on how to work things out. And bizarrely, I actually ended up doing one of these whilst I was in isolation last half term for my maths group, just to make sure that they understood. So, you know, I'm recording my screen, which I'll show people how to do on iPads in a future session. And I basically talked through how to work out decimal equivalents of 1/4 by just putting a 1 and 2 zeros inside the bus stop and a 4 outside, and then saying, right, laser pointer. So I say, how many 4s go into 1? Well, that would be 0, and decimal point will go in because the decimal point is there, so we follow it on. Not the best decimal point, let's make a better one. There we go, it's better. And then because we couldn't do anything with that 1, we are going to carry it over. So now we are going to say how many 4s go into 10, which would be 2, with 2 left over. And then how many 4s go into 20, which would be, onto the pen, 5. So 1/4 we know is 0.25. And then we use that to work out 1/7 and 1/6 and so on. Okay, so this can be really good for doing tutorials for any children that understand that they can then watch it again in their own time. Again, as I showed last week, if I type in, so let's change the keyboard so I type into it properly. So as notes, extra layer of fat to keep warm, for example. And if I wanted to change that to a different colour, I can do. I can move that across. Let's zoom out so I can see the full thing. And then I can draw a line across. Now you've got different, so this one is a highlighter. You can say it's thicker, but also you can actually see through it. So undo those. This one I think is, yeah, a bit thicker, the pen, and you've got the pencil. Okay, so I'll obviously use different colours. And then if I draw a line, that can then point to it. Same thing with the word definitions or keywords. I did say, I mean, I forgot to do it to be honest, but you could have the definitions already around the screen. The children would just use the select tool, that's this one, and then they can just move them. So using the select tool, they can move them about. You can also make these bigger, make them smaller. In fact, we did, I wonder if I've got it on, I'll see if I can show in a moment. Can't get that straight now. Ooh, there we go. We did last year actually remake the science boards, you know, the post-it note sheets. I screenshot that and we had a go doing it on there and it worked quite well, to be honest. So that's something you might want to look at and think about doing. And then finally, you know, you've got in here. So again, what you can do, if you go to the highlighter, you know, we could pick out some key information So maybe not go over it. Well, I want to go like that. 1,000 satellites. Okay, how many satellites? So it's asking. So then you can actually also write on as well. Let's change that to black. So if that's 1,000, so I can write 1,000 there, another 1,000, and that'd be 250. And then I can add this together to then get my answer. Okay. And you know, if you didn't want them to write like that, you could use the assistive drawing tools. So if you wanted it to be neater, 2250. Okay. And obviously I could write that in there, or if I write to the side, I can then drop it in. So if I rub that out, and then I can move that one into my answer box. Okay. So that's Jamboard, and the great thing about this is that this is saving all the time. So when I come out of that, in the same way that Google Docs does, so that says there, example, Jamboard, that one. If I go on to, let's see, it's changed there, let's go back out there. If I go on to my one, so my kind of teacher account, I'll be able to see that example has made those changes. And you can even put it up on your screen where you can see everybody's and see where they're up to very, very quickly. So how shadows are formed. So this was one that I'd set up and we put in, there we go. So when I go to edit that, variables we could change, and help if it was on select, and you can then drop that in, and then you can manipulate it and move them into different places. Okay, so there's another use of it. And one other thing, this was, so once you've taken a screenshot of the website, so what they had to do is find a website. So this was one of our computing topics, and they were picking out any key features of the website. So on this page, for example, we looked at the Node page, it's an old Node page, and we took screenshots and then drew arrows to the different parts. Okay. So those are a few different uses for Jamboards, but I suggest you have a look at it because it really is a very, very impressive and fantastic tool that you can use in class.